Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices is made possible in part by Allstate and the Searle Funds at the Chicago Community Trust.
Good evening y bienvenidos to Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices. I'm Alex Hernandez of Univision Chicago Primera Hora, which airs every weekday morning at 5 and 6. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, how to spot scams that are targeting some Highland Park Latino residents in the wake of the July 4th mass shooting. It's out there for everyone, but especially for outdoor workers. We'll talk about how to stay safe when working in the heat. The Cuban comet, Minnie Minoso, is said to be inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame this weekend. University of Illinois professor Adrian Burgos talks about why he believes this honor is long overdue.
We're here to help them in their language.
And how Suburban Libraries are welcoming Spanish-speaking Latinos with open arms and open books. First off tonight, as Highland Park and surrounding communities are working to heal after the mass shooting on July 4th, some Latino residents are being targeted for scam calls. Residents say that scammers are calling them pretending to be the Mexican consulate or offering legal assistance. Joining us now with more and to be on the lookout for are Esteban Carvajal, Senior Staff Attorney with the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic, and Diana Alvi, Case Manager at the Highwood Public Library and Community Center. Esteban, I want to start with you and thank you both for joining us. The Legal Aid Clinic has been assisting residents with these scam calls. What are callers and sometimes the scammers coming to homes in person supposedly offering residence?
Yeah, so people are receiving calls from individuals saying that they're from the Mexican consulate and they're offering help with applications for U visas, sometimes saying that they could expedite the case. Same thing for those that are going to people's actual houses and knocking on their doors, offering to help with U visa applications and offering to have them expedited.
In reality, what's the wait list like for people applying for U visas, Esteban?
Yeah, unfortunately, right now it's about a 6-year wait for adjudication of those applications. And then on top of that, maybe a couple more years to actually receive the visa, just because there's a huge backlog. And
right.
Also a statutory limitation on how many visas can be issued per year.
Diana, from gathering resources on how to address these calls, what have you learned about how common it is for these to pop up after a tragedy?
Well, from what we understood from the FBI and the Red Cross, they indicated to us that unfortunately it is a sad fact of what happens after these tragedies is there's all kinds of scammers that come out of the woodwork and try to make convince our community members to give up personal information, to pay money to get, as the attorney said, to get expedited visas or GoFundMe pages. That also is an issue that they're being approached on Facebook. So unfortunately, it is a sad fact that it does happen more often than not.
Right. Esteban, what are you hearing from residents about the emotional and mental impact of going through the trauma, first of the shooting, and then trying to get scammed by these calls?
It's obviously it's very frustrating to these individuals that are still processing what happened to them and still trying to heal and get back to some semblance of normalcy. It's been very difficult. A lot of these individuals have been carrying anxiety for just being undocumented. And now some people are just coming, are just finding out about U visas
right.
for the first time and finding out the requirements and the benefits, and then to have the rug pulled from under them when they thought that maybe they could have this form of relief in a few months, which is what some of these scammers are promising.
Right.
It's been very disheartening.
Well, that's why it's important also to know and identify this type of scams. Diana, how can someone identify that they're getting a call from someone attempting to scam them?
Well, what we're recommending to our community members here is that they get their information from a trusted source. So a trusted source in this area is the Highland Library. We've spent several years trying to build that reputation here, and to have people here that are trusted community messengers that live in the community and are interacting in the same spaces and are trusted with information. We started that with the vaccinations, and we're continuing that with this July 4th event, and are encouraging them to, if you have a question, if you are approached, whether it's on Facebook, text messaging, or somebody's calling you, verify. Always verify. So call, ask somebody that you trust, come to the library and ask us, and we can dig for some information for you and find out what the truth is behind what that call is.
Okay, and you just answered my following question. I was going to ask you exactly what they needed to do. They've received these calls, but thank you for answering that. 7, what resources is the legal aid offering if someone actually wants to apply for a U visa?
Well, we, in the immediate aftermath of the tragedy on July 4th, we started reaching out to partners in the community, like the Highland Library. They offered to have a table there where we can actually speak to individuals who were present at the July 4th parade. We provided preliminary consultations, and we're going to reach back out to those individuals that we've already connected with to do a full legal review to see not only if they're eligible for a U visa, but other forms of relief. We're soon going to start providing presentations as well on the application process, the requirements, and processing tasks.
Definitely. Information is key on that regard. Diana, a bilingual resource center has opened up for residents, as we know. What's offered there?
So what we've tried to do is mimic what has been done at the high school. And so, but rather than having all of the resources available there, we have bilingual case managers that once you make your appointment or you walk in the door, or you walk in, you are able to approach one of the case managers, sit at the table, and work through what your priority of needs is. So we have the conversation with you, and what is it that you need right now to help you through today? Is it counseling right now, crisis counseling, or is it financial assistance? Let's hook you up with some resources that we have in the community with our partner agencies, or is it just somebody to talk to? For some people, it's been the first time that they've left their homes and only have done so in order to access some of these resources that are available to them. Right.
Well, I want to thank both of you. That's going to be our time. Thank you, Seban Carvajal and Diana Albi. Thank you both.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Coming up, staying safe while working outside during a heat wave. As we head towards summer's peak and temperatures routinely reach above 90s, people who work outdoors are increasingly at risk of overheating. And it's not only people like farm workers and construction workers who are at risk. This week in Arizona, a UPS driver was caught on a security camera collapsing. You see him here. From the effects of heat illness after spending hours in his hot van. Joining us now with more are Nick Theodore, professor and head of urban planning and policy at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Maggie Rivera, president and CEO of the Illinois Migrant Council, and Bogdan Catalin, Supervisor in the Enforcement Programs Unit of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration Chicago Regional Office. Thank you all for joining us today. And I want to start with you, Maggie. How big of a problem is heat stress for farm workers here in Illinois?
Well, customarily, it's a big problem for the farm workers that are working in the farms when the temperatures rise above 100. Particularly here in the Midwest, you add the moisture into it, so it becomes very unbearable. So it's a hazardous problem and a health problem for our farm workers.
Bogdan, what are the symptoms of heat stress that people should look out for in themselves and others?
It's important to note that heat affects us all regardless of age, whether we work indoors or outdoors. Some of the symptoms can be mild and reversible. Some can be severe, fatal even. They can range from heat rash, like red dots on your arms, to fainting, to fatigue, dizziness, and vomiting, all the way to heat stroke, which is fatal, and begins with confusion, slurred speech, seizures, and very high body temperature.
Nick, what would you say are the job categories that are at risk for heat stress, and what kinds of people typically work in these professions?
Right. Well, there are a number of occupations, both indoors and outdoors, that are subject to heat stress and heat-related illness. Indoor occupations like factory workers and warehouses, bakeries and laundries. Outdoor work like agricultural work, construction work, landscaping. All of these potentially encounter very high temperatures and put workers at risk.
Right. And speaking now about employers, Bogdan, what are their obligations to their workers when it comes to keeping a safe working environment in the heat?
For sure. Employers have an obligation to provide a healthy and safe work environment regardless of the workplace hazards or exposures. OSHA's message is simple: water, rest, shade. Employers should encourage workers to drink water frequently, take frequent rest breaks in shade or air-conditioned break rooms, have an emergency plan ready to respond when a worker shows signs of heat-related illness, allow them to build tolerance for working in heat, especially new employees or those returning from extended breaks, and certainly keep up to date with the weather forecast or warnings to adjust, when possible, the intended work schedules, such as starting earlier in the day when it's cooler. And not to forget training workers on the hazards of heat exposure and how to prevent such illnesses.
Right. We actually spoke with Leticia Martinez with the Illinois Migrant Council, who conducts heat safety training for workers and employers. She says that though most employers she deals with want to ensure safety for their workers, the workers don't always feel comfortable saying they need to take a break. Let's listen.
Especially for those individuals that are new and it's their first year doing the field or the work or the farm labor. So when it's their first year, they're not very familiar with everything, and they think that if they speak out, they might lose their job, or they might get in trouble, or they might get reprimanded for this, when in fact they will not. But this is what they believe. So they definitely have to have someone out there that knows the signs and can help individuals who can't relate to the employer because of language barriers.
Maggie, what is the IMC doing to help workers feel comfortable advocating for themselves?
Well, for a number of years, literally since our existence, we have been going out to the camps where we actually bring our team members like Leticia, and we have, they are trained by a national organization called AFOP. And we have several of these team members throughout the state that we actually partner with the growers, and we go out to the fields and bring this education to the workers in several different languages, because we want to make sure that they're not only are informed, but they receive the different tools that they need in order for them to keep themselves safe from the heat. And we are there for them to answer any questions. So if there's any incident of someone that happens to fall ill from heat stress, we make sure that we get that information and get them connected to the appropriate emergency services they may be in need of.
Going back with you, Nick, you've studied the effects of heat stress on workers in other cities. Can you tell us about what you found, and also are there similar patterns here?
Yeah, I think what we're finding in a number of our studies is that workers in a range of industries are feeling a lot of pressure to keep on working regardless of the conditions. So I'm talking about the delivery driver that is being monitored closely to make sure that enough routes are being run, or the construction worker that is feeling the pressure to complete a job. So if you just look at the Chicago area, we had an early June heat episode where the heat indices in Chicago were above 105, and in the outlying areas closer to 110 to 115, right? And so for those workers who are working on rooftops or pouring foundations or doing cement work, the temperature that they're facing could be 10 to 15 degrees hotter. There's a lot of pressure to get the work done, and too often workers are not getting the rest breaks, the water, and the basic protections that would keep them from getting heat-related illness.
Right. Maggie, if a worker believes they're working in unsafe conditions, what can they do?
They can contact us and provide us with the information, or let us know confidentially what's going on. We have over the years been able to build a very close report with a lot of the farm workers, so they feel comfortable in knowing that if they call us, they're not only going to get the help, but they are going to get their issues resolved without any kind of backslash against them.
Maggie, thank you. We have less than a minute, but I want to ask you both about the OSHA that put a new program into place this year, the National Emphasis Program on Heat. Can you tell us a little bit about this program and what its goals are? We have about 30 seconds.
Certainly. It's in effect since April 8th of this year, and it contains both enforcement and outreach on compliance assistance elements, and it establishes heat priority days when the heat index is above 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's when our compliance officers will go out and be engaged in proactive outreach or technical compliance assistance with the employers.
Okay. Well, I want to thank all of you for your time today. Thank you, Nick Theodore, Maggie Rivera, and Bogdan Carolyn. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Though he has long been a Hall of Famer in the hearts of White Sox fans, this weekend, Mr. White Sox, Minnie Minoso, will officially receive baseball's highest honor. Minoso, who died in 2015, was beloved on the South Side for his warm and engaging spirit as much as his extraordinary on-field performance. University of Illinois professor and author Adrian Burgos Jr. says though the honor comes too late for Minoso to enjoy in person, it will be a day for celebration for all who love him.
We have waited so long for this day to see Minnie Minoso inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. For us, those who advocated for him, who understood the value, the excellence of his career as a pioneering Black Cubano in Major League Baseball history, it is an acknowledgement of both his excellence on the field and the social context in which he performed. You know, he had to face racism, and as Orlando Cepeda said, he was our Jackie Robinson, because as a Black Latino, he had to deal for being Black and being Latino, being a foreigner in the United States. And to me, as a historian, it makes me appreciate all the more the baseball statistics that Minnie Minoso compiled as a career 300 hitter, as a leading base stealer, as a guy who constantly was thrown at and hit and knocked down, that he was an exemplar of resiliency, of good-spiritedness, of leadership, of excellence. And it's going to be bittersweet because just like in the case of Buck O'Neil, that Minnie deserved to be in to experience this with his family, with his fans, his loved ones, those who supported him for so long. It's going to be joyful because, and this was Scott Reichert saying that he's with the Chicago White Sox, Minnie has his forever baseball home now.
Minnie Minoso's family says 80 to 90 people will be at the ceremony to celebrate and to hear his wife, Sharon Rice Minoso, give an induction speech. Up next, how Suburban Libraries are welcoming Spanish-speaking Latinos. Stay with us.
Don't ever miss Chicago Tonight. Subscribe to our podcast. Get a daily download of our show delivered to your desktop or mobile device. Go to WTTW.com/Chicago Tonight Podcast and subscribe.
Between 2000 to 2016, 6 of Chicago's suburbs flipped from majority white suburbs to majority Latino. That's a reflection of a broader trend of immigrants bypassing the historical port of entry neighborhoods in the city and settling directly in the suburbs. And as the demographics of these communities have evolved, their institutions have had to find new ways to serve and engage those residents. Producer Erika Gunderson checked out 2 suburban libraries to see how they're going beyond just books.
Mi bonita sombrero, my beautiful hat.
When we have new families that are coming here for the first time, I want them to know that this is their library, this is their space.
Like all social institutions, the public library has had to evolve with the times.
People come here for passport services. People come to get their blood sugar, cholesterol screenings. People check out our Library of Things items, which include sewing machines or telescopes.
And as Latinos, especially immigrant Latinos, have increasingly settled in Chicago's suburbs over the years, suburban libraries have developed ways to better serve their changing communities.
We're here to help them in their language and that we can also celebrate their cultural background as well.
At the Rounds Lake Public Library, a monthly book club offers readers the opportunity to discuss literature in their own language.
A lot of them, what they have told me is that they feel like this is an era of space and a time where they can just dedicate to themselves. We talk about the book and different point of views of everybody within the book and then in their lives, because we always find something to relate to.
Y ver que ya la biblioteca nos manda la información, toda nos la manda en español, pues a veces ese es como algo que pone uno de barrera, a veces el idioma, ¿verdad? Entonces, tener esta oportunidad en nuestra biblioteca de venir a buscar los libros muy interesantes en español, pues fue una de las cosas que más me motivó para venir.
Round Lake Library Head of Community Engagement Sandra Lopez says during the early days of the COVID pandemic, patrons increasingly turned to the library for help with problems that went far beyond the stacks.
For example, the school district became virtual. A lot of the families in the school district didn't have computers or didn't know how to use computers, and they also had a language barrier. So we had our partner over at the school district reach out to us, say, hey, can you guys help? And we developed computer classes that we were able to give to parents in need.
In West Suburban North Lake, bilingual adult reference librarian Carla Alba says the staff develops its programming based on input from the community.
That means that they are trusting us more in terms of what they ask for, and if they do need something that they don't know whether we provide it or not, they feel like that they can come in and ask for it.
North Lake Youth Services librarian Jackie Cerrone says she draws upon her own upbringing when selecting resources for the children who come to her library.
The other day I had purchased books about El Cucuy, which is like a childhood myth, that us, especially in the Mexican community, we grew up listening to, which are now in story times.
North Lake patrons Fiona Ayala and Noemi Guisar Miranda both say they began coming to the North Lake Public Library to find activities for their children. But now they keep coming back for themselves, too.
So I was born in Mexico, came here, and just recently I took my citizenship test. And the fact that they offer that program so you can study for the test, it was one of the most amazing things.
Sorprendente que en ningún lugar celebran el Día del Niño y aquí lo celebran. El Día de la Madre, el Día de los Muertos, y hacen eventos y cosas alusivas a esas tradiciones que nos hacen sentir orgullosos de nuestras raíces.
Both Ayala and Guisar Miranda say they often recommend the North Lake Library to friends and family, which librarians say is key to building trust in the community.
A lot of the time we feel that patrons will come in because they've talked to a family member or a friend.
It just makes me feel great that there is a place where you can feel comfortable, that there's people that are still willing to help you out when you know you need the help. And it's a library like a place that I never would have expected.
For Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, this is Erica Gunderson.
You can actually find more about the libraries you just saw on our website, too. And that's going to be our show for this weekend. Be sure to check out our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News. And if you're watching us on Saturday night, know that you can also catch Latino Voices and Black Voices on Sundays beginning at 10 p.m. Don't forget also to tune in to Primera Hora on Univision Chicago every weekday morning. I'll be waiting for you. We leave you tonight with Chicago's newest landmark, the two 60-foot-high Puerto Rican flags located in Humboldt Park. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Alex Hernandez. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. Buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm, and proud sponsor of programming that offers advice and strategies to enhance the physical and mental well-being of fellow legal practitioners in Illinois.